Hey, good morning, friends. Just letting you know that we are starting this stream just a little bit late, waiting on my friend Lori Smith to show up and just finishing getting set up here. But we will be back with you in probably about 5 or 6 minutes. I'm just going to keep setting up here. So stay tuned for Lori Smith's message about grace. My friend Mark's talking to me. We're very casual here, Mark. There are a couple people watching, but I explain the situation. What's up, my friend?
I was just going to ask you something unrelated to the live stream stuff. I see the fancy on air, so I apologize for interrupting.
No interruption. I'll come out in just a second. Oh.
I feel like that guy who sees a camera on the news wants to walk by and just wave.
All right, I see a couple of people just joined us, so I just want to let you know we are waiting on Lori Smith, our guest. She should be arriving very shortly. In fact, I might see her putting on makeup in the car right now. I think that's her. Anyway, we'll be back with you in just a moment. But the stuff you eat still there, like Doritos. Doritos. Okay, Mark, this is my name. I love those things. What was I going to tell you? Oh, do you have a present for me?
Possibly, I think so. I'm working my way around to it, yes. Or to it. Like, I think my method is usually.
Do you have like if-thens? Like if this is okay, then this. I do that all the time. I have if-then.
I think my normal rule with that piece of that's called is if I were to feel comfortable, my dad was like, you don't feel comfortable bargaining with somebody, then you don't feel comfortable learning somebody. I'm like, black people are asking. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, sometimes it's not best for time for additional measures.
Right.
So
it's extenuating circumstances.
Yeah. I do have a couple of things in my mind. I think, as I said, I'm still trying to my
No.
mind right.
I
Yeah,
can
so
see that.
I'm working around to okay, yeah. Please come on to this.
Okay.
So yeah. I'll be back.
Okay. That's Lori. You know what to tell her. Is that Lori?
It is.
Okay. Well, I see Lori has arrived, and I want to wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day to those of you who are Catholic, probably even more meaningful than to those of you who are Protestant, but such an interesting and rich history. I do have my St. Pat's Day swag here, my green aloe juice and my green straw and my green shirt. How are you celebrating St. Patrick's Day? For those of you from Irish descent, you should let me know. Hello, Marcos. Good to see you all the way from Paraguay. I see that we've got a couple friends and visitors on here today. Hey, listen, I just want to let you know that here in Sunnyvale, California, although we got that ban put on us yesterday where we've been asked to stay home unless there's essential services, which includes spiritual services that we're providing, and especially to keep out of contact with people that we know are elderly or compromised immune system. Just to let you know, we have taken all that into effect, and most of my guests will be done just online over the air. But some guests we had already scheduled to come into my office and want to make it easy for them. And Lori's one of them. So we will be probably one of our last ones where we'll have a friend in the studio here. But if those of you who are watching now or later have prayer requests, if you're worried about health, if you've got sickness, I just want to encourage you to leave a prayer request. I'm definitely going to be praying over you guys, praying over Denise Q from San Diego County and Marcos and everyone else who's watching and commenting. Definitely keeping the world in our prayers as we go through this virus scare together. So anyway, I just want to open with some prayer about that, and then we'll get started with Lori here in a few minutes. So just pray with me. Father in heaven, here in Sunnyvale, California, in the Bay Area, I've been seeing empty shelves for a couple weeks now when it comes to flour and beans and sugar and some of the staples, some of the dairy aisles. And I know that there are people who truly need things and can't get them because there's such a spirit of fear in our area. God, I want to ask that you would replace that spirit of fear with knowledge that you're in control. God, I ask that you would send your Christian soldiers out to love people, to care for people, to send messages of hope and peace, to check on their neighbors via telephone or social media, or however they can, just to make sure everyone's doing all right. God, I want to pray for our healthcare workers, especially today, especially my friends, the Gutierrezes, as they try to alleviate some of the worry and fear and pain associated with this scare. And God, I just want to ask that you would lift up your people, those who are willing to go and pray and serve, that you would give us extra power and grace to do that, to do your will. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, my friends, my girl Lori has just arrived. Lori, come on in here. And just chatting it up with some folks online as we get started. And we've got viewers from Paraguay and San Diego County. Wow. And we're just having a good old time. You have any St. Patrick's Day facts to share with us? You know anything cool about St. Patrick's Day?
I heard top of the morning to you is not a typical Irish
Top
praise.
Of the morning. Yeah, maybe not. Come on over.
All right.
All right, friends, this is Lori Smith.
Hi.
Because of Lori has helped me move in. She has fed me ever since I've moved to the Bay Area. She and her husband, Dwayne, have helped me with, various odd projects. And this is a woman that I can say is living out what I think Christianity looks like. And I really look up to you, and I really thank you for your influence in my life. And just really appreciate you. And appreciate you being here today. We're not following
Dwayne
this
and I
6-foot rule.
and his cousin were excited when we heard about your ministry. So they're like, "Oh, we want to meet her." So I'm like, "Okay."
Oh yeah, that's when I first got
Yeah.
to eat with you guys. Well, we've chit-chatted about some bling, some
I know I
Paisley
was.
bling.
If I had time,
I brought you one.
okay.
So
I was
you
gonna
can
get one of those wigs, you
Mm.
know.
Oh, Marco
green.
says, yeah, that would have been shocking. Marco says, hi.
Hi, Marco.
Denise says, hi, Lori. So,
Does
Lori,
a drink or a beer or something go with it?
I did not bring you either of
Okay.
those things.
All right. Just checking. Thank you. That's
Well,
cute.
This morning, I just wanted to get to know you a little bit better. I want to
Okay.
hear about your growing up. I want to hear about kind of if you grew up in a Christian home,
Feeling my-
if it was rules based, or, like kind of what was growing up like
Yeah.
for you. And where did you grow up? Where are you from?
So I'm born in San Francisco. My mom, my two younger brothers, and I, she wanted us to be born in a famous place
Oh,
in the world,
oh,
which I think it is.
yeah.
Although, things have changed with Silicon Valley and maybe they would know where El Camino or Mountain View is now.
Mm-hmm.
So that was in San Francisco. And then my dad did farming down in the Imperial Valley, El Centro.
Mm-hmm.
It's by the California-Mexican border.
Mm-hmm. Hard work.
Yeah. I've never done farming, but my mom says just worries about frost and crops and workers and all that. So in 1962, they moved so she's a city girl. My dad was a farmer, country boy.
Okay.
Originally from Idaho, moved with my grandparents.
Midwest.
I know.
Roots.
So, and he's very good at growing things, unlike myself. So then in 1962, they moved to the Bay Area, Mountain View, and he worked at the Pacific Press as a pressman. My mom's a school nurse. She did float ICU work at Stanford. So
okay,
yeah.
What religion? I mean, what role did religion play in your family upbringing?
Yeah, it was part of our daily routine. We'd have worship every evening, and mornings were kind of a little more hectic, so we didn't actually rode with a pastor who lived down the street, and they were always running late. I don't know, maybe I learned that from them in my life, but it didn't matter how late they were, they would still have their devotional and
sweet
before they started their days. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So you saw some of that modeled.
Yeah, and in our family too.
You had religious upbringing.
Yeah.
Did you get to know God as a child? Did you have a time where you felt close or connected with God?
I think, yeah, through my parents and grandparents' examples. My grandfather's was a minister who started quite a few of the churches here.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, they were very disciplined, dedicated, and, prayers and talking about God. I think compared to myself now, probably a little bit more conservative, I think the whole generation was a little bit more rules oriented, like your works, going to church, all that, which I think is important. But I think for me, I didn't have that like personal relationship with God.
So it's not that their connection with God wasn't real, but you saw more of the structure, more of we must do this, like the Christian duty, and you didn't get to witness as much as the relationship, or it wasn't highlighted for you. Yeah, I probably just didn't see that. But as far as their examples, as far as reaching out, helping people, encouraging people, I think that was always there on both sides of the family with my dad's and my mom's. Because I know for me, unless I was interested in the person of Christ or like the person of God, or, you know, unfortunately, probably a little bit too much like, what is this about me? You know, thinking it's about me, because I know my propensity to that. At some point, I would just get tired of keeping rules. Did you ever have a point where you were like, all right, I don't really, this feels empty. I don't, I don't like this. Did you ever think, if this is all there is, I'm not really
Yeah,
getting
I'm
much
trying
out
to
of it?
think. It was just part of our family, our structure. I know even going to college, going to a Christian college and having a non-Christian roommate asking me. So I think that was a good time to kind of sift and look at, like, okay, what do I believe and what are my values? But it
Yeah.
still wasn't quite the same personal relationship that it is now.
Mm.
So for me, I think I'd have to, and I can't tell you specifically, but early on when my boys were young, toddlers, infants, that I was able to go to a women's retreat, Christian women's retreat. And I
Oh,
don't know,
yeah.
maybe it was because, just getting away from the busyness, taking care of kids, school, work, wife, all the busyness of life, to just really sit at the feet of Jesus and just kind of realize how simple the gospel is. And maybe just in my mind, or just, how complicated it seemed to have become with,
Yeah.
rules and regulations and works and things like that.
Yeah. Can you remember one of the first times when something clicked for you, or you were reading a verse and something shifted because of this women's retreat? Or can you remember sitting under a message and thinking, oh wow, I get something different about
I
God?
think what really struck me was just how much God, Jesus loves us,
Mhm.
and his sacrifice. And, I think for me, being a parent or a young parent, it was like, it just really hit home,
Mm.
because now you have kids and you would do anything for them. But
Right,
to
right.
think of sacrificing your own child, that was just really, I think, mind blowing for me.
And that's what happened at this retreat. You
Yeah.
had that wash over you.
Mhm. And I also think for me is, I think at that point, there's two forces, right? So I think, Satan knew how life changing in a positive way it was going to be.
Mm.
God knows the beginning from the end. At that time, I didn't know I was going to be, going through a divorce after being married for 22 years.
Mhm.
But God is just so faithful. He's just always there. And, that's what I needed. And I think so much of my life growing up, oldest daughter, Asian family, you just kind of take charge. Everyone kind of comes to you and you kind of take care of everyone. Or I don't know, I guess that's my fault too for allowing it to get to that point. But just thinking that you have control of your life, and I think there are decisions and important things that happen, but really you don't. Really what you have control over is how you're going to either choose to do things, or choose God, or to respond to things. But there are things that are just way out of your control. And if you're used to that take charge, type A list type of person, which I was, it really, I think over the years has helped me to try to be a little bit more in the moment, and to put my own agenda lists aside, and to just kind of be a little bit more present for myself and for, whatever's happening or whoever I'm with. Doesn't always happen. You can ask my husband, I get kind of preoccupied with my own thinking and stuff. But
Sure.
that has kind of been a shift for me. But just, I think the overwhelming, there's songs about it, but just God's grace, his love, his forgiveness. And so when I feel like righteous indignation or the right to be upset about something, to just kind of step back and just say, well, what is it about this God that you want me to learn? And for me, it
Yeah.
always comes back to forgiveness, grace, being a servant leader. And that's very humbling. And I'm still learning that.
Oh,
like,
well, I have
every
it all
day.
figured out, so I'll
Yeah.
teach you.
Well, good for you.
I'm just kidding. Lori, you mentioned, and I know because we've talked outside, that going through a divorce was a big blow. And I mean, it's a life-changing event at any time. And I want to know practically how knowing God, knowing Jesus, knowing this grace that you've experienced, how does that help somebody get through a divorce or get through any major, life upset, life tragedy? What is a practical thing that happened because of this knowledge? How do what about that made you better able to cope with life's tragedy?
Well, it certainly is. When you have life events happen to you and you experience it firsthand, it's very eye-opening. And the advice or thoughts or recommendations I had given to friends or other family people in the past, I realized, it's just so much better to just listen and help.
Give me an example.
process.
Give me an example of a piece of advice you would have
Let's see.
given in your.
Oh, you're beautiful. You'll fall in love again. You can get married again. You're still young.
Uh-huh.
And maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. But in that moment, that's really not what is helpful to hear.
Interesting. Okay.
Or,
what's better?
divorce is just this ugly, festering thing. And it's like, this is my life, my family that you're talking about. So I know people are well-meaning. So I think what I needed to do is just kind of, in my mind, think of forgiveness, but realize people don't really know what to say if they haven't been through it. And
Right.
sometimes even when they have, well-meaning people will say things that are kind of foolish. And, been there, done that myself.
Right. Even church people who have
Yeah.
like all the love in the world for you.
Yeah. So I would just tell myself, they're coming from a place of love and care. And that's what I would tell myself to
Right.
think and not be reactive. But I know a few times I've had to say, I know you mean well, and I know that you're trying to say something helpful, but I have to just let you know that doesn't really feel really helpful right now in this moment.
Yeah.
But I know you care about me.
So
right?
do you feel like God's grace and understanding that has helped you give more grace to other people?
I would like to think that.
I would like to think that for me too.
Well, but
Yeah.
and I realize in my humanness, it's still conditional.
Sure.
Like, I like you, but maybe not that person. Or
Right.
with, someone who I feel has done me wrong. It's like, I'm still not ready to forgive them. But I
Sure.
realize that God is not like that. Christ, that's really not how he taught us to be.
Mm-hmm.
So still learning that one.
Yeah, I love having a perfect example and knowing that I'm covered if I'm not perfect.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful thing in Christianity to have that perfect thing to look to, but know that while we're striving for it, we are still covered.
Mhm.
It's like we're going to fall short,
Mhm.
but that doesn't kick us out of God's
Yeah.
relationship or friendship.
Yeah. And I think the friendship, that was what was really, going back to your question about divorce, is just, I'm just really grateful for people that included me, and, lunch after church, or going to go see a movie, and just with their family or outings. That was really, really helpful and touching. And our previous pastor too, he really reached out to me, and that was really touching. And and friends and community from this church too. I could think of, not all of them. Some people have moved or are no
Sure.
longer here as members. It's kind of a busy church with people coming and going, but I will always be grateful. So I think just um, praying, asking God to just kind of help me to be open enough to see people that could use encouragement or lifting up or just being a friend. I don't know that it's different for each person,
Amen. Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, there was a gift that God gave you, and you have again found love.
Yes.
And do you think that I mean, now that you have perfection in your marriage,
Right.
do you feel like you're using
If
any
there
of
is
that?
such a thing.
Do you think you're using any of that grace to continue to build a relationship with your husband? Do you see
Yeah,
God through that?
absolutely. Yes. I am constantly reminded about that. We were just reminiscing last night about our dating days, and I think God has his sense of humor
Yeah.
because I think we're just so different, and yet we love each other. He's a good man. He's
Mm.
the salt of the earth, and that's what I was
I've met
praying
him.
for.
He's salty.
I-
Yeah.
I no, initially, when I was going through my separation, I was married for 22 years. I just remember being on my knees and just like, knowing other couples who've been through difficulties and probably
Mm.
worse situations than mine, who've been able to get back together and have a
Yeah.
stronger marriage. And it's like, that was what I wanted. I wanted to be able to grow old with my first husband, and I probably will still grow old. It's just won't be with my first husband.
Right.
But I think what
Mm.
came to me was, I needed to just. It feels like kind of jumping off a cliff with no safety net, to
Mm.
just say, whatever happens, God, I know you're going to be with me, and He's the one. He's the one that has promised to be
Mm.
our right husband, father,
Yeah.
mom, friend, through anything. And that's really, I think it's so much easier, I think, for us to just kind of reach out to the human person, friend. And I think that that's
Mm.
important, our community, but
Sure.
going to God first, because he has everything that we need.
Amen. People will watch this live stream,
There's no
months and
editing.
there's no editing. There's
Okay.
months,
No
months
makeup
and
or
years.
hair.
No.
Okay, too bad.
After this, and I am hoping that you will speak to somebody who may have been in a similar situation. Maybe their understanding of God, although good, although helpful, blessing their life, was not a relationship based knowledge. What would you say to that person? How can they get what resources or what can they do to take a step towards getting to know our creator God?
I think that the thoughts, the worries, the everyday things that go through our mind or our head is to just take that and just as a conversation, like, God, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm struggling with. I don't know you. I don't know you very well. But just, I would say, put him to the test,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Have a conversation, ask him to show himself.
And
like it.
I know it's different than he's not like a genie in a bottle, but what do I want to say? I think having that relationship, and sometimes the answers could be like yes, no, maybe, or just wait. And so I have seen that over and over, because so many times I figure, okay, I got this, God, I have the answer. I'm going to run with it because I'm an expert on this. Or
Right.
even like coming to the feet of the cross, right? Okay, I bring my burdens, I bring my worries, I give you everything. But, this thing here, I feel like I can handle this myself. And that's where I kind of get stuck. So it's a constant it's a constant struggle, I think, at times. But I think just like good habits, just making and taking the time and just being open, I think, because if we're so busy worrying and being afraid, and that's the other thing that God says is, fear not, do not be afraid. And so I've had to remind myself, he has this, he wins, right?
Yeah.
So I think
I peeked at the end of the book.
having hope and just we stumble, we fall, but just like my dad has taught me, we dust ourselves up, we pick ourselves up, and we keep going. This is not our final destination. So that just
Yeah,
gives
that's
me a
right.
lot of hope. But
Hmm.
in the meantime, is enjoying friendships, family, things that we take for granted are blessings. It's
Mhm.
just, it's a great life. And I do look back and I think, wow, what happened to the time?
Mm.
Like people that are parents, that
Just
first year, it just kind of goes by so quickly. So
speeds up.
it does. Or
Yeah.
things that you think happened maybe a couple of weeks ago happen like months ago. It's like, what? So
Yeah, I've noticed that starting in my own life as
Yeah.
well. I remember how long it took to turn 10, to get
Yeah.
that double digits. It
Yeah.
took forever.
Yeah.
And then how long it took to turn 16 and then 21. And then after that, it just kind of started getting blurry.
Yeah.
So I
I
can
think,
imagine it's going to go faster.
remembering the past, our what we've had, what we, our memories are, being present, and then knowing that there still is, a future, and there is hope. And I know it's a little harder for a lot of us these days with, COVID-19, but just enjoying the journey and to, look at the blessings. Like it was raining the last few days, right? Look outside. I mean, my cat was enjoying lying in the sun and being all stretched out. And I just thought,
Oh,
this
to
is
be
such
a cat.
Oh, to be a cat, yes. But just, there's joy in the morning. There's, light at the end of the tunnel, all the sayings that we have. There's
Right.
sunshine, after
Right.
rain. And I'm, looking outside your window here, outside your office.
So
and,
pretty.
yeah, the big oak tree and blue sky and stuff. So I would just encourage people to hang on to that. I know that, there's ups and downs and hills and valleys, but to just keep on, don't give up.
Right. I want to visit one more topic, and
Okay.
that is let's say that somebody out there has someone in their church going through a divorce or any other big life sadness. You mentioned friendship being a big thing that helped pull you through, help you see God in the tough times.
I think so what would I say or do?
Encourage?
What
would you encourage
it's
them
not
to
a
do?
contagious disease.
Ooh.
I know that.
Ooh.
Some people, it's kind of like whatever happened to her, whatever she's going through, I don't want it. And they would just kind of distance themselves. So, and I know that our society is so based on not being by yourself, not being single. So after 25 years, it's like, okay, what is this? So I think learning to be okay in your own skin, doing things by yourself, rethinking, looking at the things that are going well in your life. And that's what I needed to do. Sometimes if I could just come up with 3, but I had my health, I had a roof over my head. And yes, it is very sad to not have your hopes and dreams turn out the way that you thought. But I think in the big scheme of things, God knows your heart, and sometimes things are even better than you could expect. I mean, who would have ever thought that, Dwayne and I, he's born in Redding and I'm here in the Bay Area, that we would have gotten together or gotten married. So we're very different. but we're good for each other, and we make each other laugh, and we challenge each other. And to have a man that loves God and loves me with all his heart, I don't think that I could ask for anything more. But I think that sense of community, don't think that you're by yourself. Reach out.
Amen.
I think just being real and authentic, because I think we
Yeah.
all look at each other's lives from the outside, and it's kind of like, I mean, I used to have people that say, "Oh, I want your life," and I would think, "Don't think you know me
Do
so
you
well."
know me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. But I think if we could get past the initial appearances and assumptions to really get to know each other, and
Yeah.
to find the common ground, find that community that we can create and we can have, I think that's really so important. So I appreciate you and
Thank
your
you.
time in your ministry.
Thank you, Lori. Well, thank you for joining us today, friends. And Lori Smith, thank you so much for sharing your time with us and your knowledge and wisdom. Getting it on the internet, I think, is a big part of why I'm here on the earth, is let's get some of the beautiful things about God and his people online. And so I also want to open it up to you watching from home. If you have a story about how your life has been improved because of seeing God in a new way, or the character of God in a new way, I'd like to hear about it. I'd like to see it in the comments. And, maybe there's a chance that I dial you up and get to hear your story live as well. But bless each other in the comment section with how you've seen God work, your pieces of advice. We want this to be a community, especially as Lori and I have both mentioned, in this kind of pandemic situation where we're supposed to be distancing ourselves from each other. I can't, as a Christian, just let my community fall apart. I feel responsible for bringing people together and sharing stories, talking about what God's doing. So anyway, I want you guys to be a part of that. If you know somebody that I need to be interviewing who has a relationship with God that you admire, I'd love to hear about it. Thanks again for your time. And Denise, Marcos, Teresa, thank you for joining us. I know other people have popped on and off, but appreciate you guys. And we will have another one of these this week. But I'm just working on scheduling with all the cancellations and stuff. So look for it, add us, put the little alarm bell on your YouTube, and we'll notify you when we're going live. So thanks again for joining, and happy St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day. Where do we see this in here? I'll just wave that.
All right. Bye for now.